So I'm excited today. I get the opportunity to talk with Sedrick Huckaby, an artist that I have admired for quite some time. I've had the privilege of interacting with a few times over the last several years, and now I'm in one of Sedrick's spaces and have an opportunity to talk with him directly. And so, Sedrick, thank you so much for allowing us to come sort of invade your space and get to know you a little bit. When we reached out to you to see if you would do this interview, you gave us the address of a place that I've never been. And so where are we right now? Tell us where we are right now.
So this is 1913 Wallace Street. It's a place in my family known as Big Mama's house.
Okay.
It used to be the house where my grandmother lived, and now it's I own it, and it's becoming a type of arts incubator. So it's in Fort Worth, and yeah, that's what it is.
That's great. You know, I have, as I just mentioned, I have been inspired by your work and followed your work for some time, and you wrestle with themes that are core to who we are as human beings, especially core to the Christian community as well. Issues like faith and heritage and what we pass down from one generation to the next, and issues of community and things like that. And you do it all within through the lens of an African American male, an African American artist, and your experiences, and it's just beautiful. And it's wonderful work. And as you know, I'm a pastor, and I, wanted to reach out to you, in part, to have this conversation as part of a sermon that I'm doing on the ordinariness of Jesus, on this humanity, and that how Jesus, just being a regular person, a person just like you and me, it connects to our ordinariness, and it also sort of elevates our ordinariness. And it made me think about a series of art, a series that you did a few years ago called The 99%. And I remember seeing that show and just being blown away by it. And tell us a little bit, what was that show all about?
The work, The 99%, was about getting the perspectives of the people in my community. We had seen, during that time, there was the whole protest on Wall Street.
Right.
And something about that whole issue of with the protest, and there was the whole ideal of the 99% versus the 1%.
Right.
And I wanted to see what the 99% in my community, the people down the road, around the corner in this area, what thoughts were on their mind. Because in the media, we could hear all kinds of things, and there was all kinds of information being transmitted. But the concern to me was, the thought that I had was, what would happen if I'm walking down the street and I'm talking to people, and a person gave me enough time to draw a small portrait? What kind of things would come up in our conversation? And that's what the whole series was about.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit more. Like, what was your approach as you're approaching individuals, or even as you're engaging in conversation? Like, what's your mindset, or what's your thinking as you're creating each of these individual pieces in the 99%?
So there's something I think in photography called the decisive moment, and it's where a photographer has to find just the right moment to pull the switch. And as I'm talking to individuals, and this came about, like, initially it was about drawing people and listening to people. But I start to notice in the process that there's, you can't write down everything that a person says in a conversation. It's possible if you were recording the conversation, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
So I started looking for things, not necessarily, I didn't know what I was looking for, but if it was interesting, if it caught my attention, I was looking for a type of decisive moment, or a type of something that I could take from that conversation. And and then I'm looking at the person, trying to just see them a little better.
Yeah. I was struck when I saw that series because you talk about like finding, like not only capturing their image but also listening to them as you're talking. Like you can tell as you were drawing them, you guys were having a conversation and you're getting to know this person, and that you would then incorporate some quotes from what that person was saying, which is not a typical thing that a portrait artist would do or a figurative artist, and it does. It did bring about for me that it just made it much more personal, that it's not just a face, this is a person, and that and sometimes the quotes are really funny, or sometimes, or whatever, and you could tell that this was a real human interaction. And one thing too, I think that this is something I've kind of always wanted to ask you, is that you are able to capture the individuality and the ordinariness of ordinary folk, that like you said, down the street, or people in your family, or that kind of stuff. But when I see them, there is a sense of kind of nobility about them. And I'm not sure if that's intentional or if that's something that's in your mind, that there's, talk to me about that. Is that something that is, that you try to do intentionally, or does that, I'm not even sure how to ask this question. Maybe you know kind of what I'm trying to get at.
I do, and from very early on, it's been my endeavor to try to show the importance, the beauty, the magnificence of everyday people, because for the most part, what we see if you're on the internet, if you're watching television, if you're watching a movie, or whatever it is, you see the celebrities, you see the people with the big names, and they're put in front of us as, this is what people is like. But everyday people, in a lot of my work, you'll see people that, they're not celebrities. And unless you know them personally, you will never know them.
Right.
But it's talking, I'm always trying to make the discussion that they're just as valuable as a celebrity or as anybody else that you would see in the media.
Yeah. That's great. And I think it also brings to mind, and anyone who's watching this who has followed your work, also know that you are known for portraits like the ones in this room, also like giant portraits, like wall-sized portraits. And talk to me a little bit about those. Like specifically, why so big? Because that's kind of rare that you have a portrait that's maybe 6, 7, 8 feet tall.
And again, that's the significance of the size.
Yeah.
Ordinary people are usually not celebrated in that way. A photograph, you take a picture of somebody and we see that, but how many times are they seen as larger than life?
Right.
On a large scale, or...
Yeah. It's beautiful. Tell me what you're working on now. What are you excited about? What kind of themes are you wrestling with right now?
I'm working on a number of things, like a spidery situation, but there's a group of works that there's a show coming up in Los Angeles called Estuary, and it's a part of a series that I did where people are wearing memorial T-shirts, and I'm dealing with death in the Black community, but not from various perspectives. I'm really using the T-shirt as a touch point to talk about death, and using death as a touch point to talk about the issues of life. And so, through death, let's say, we can talk about, there's discussions about healthcare, there's discussions about police brutality, there's discussion about infant mortality, there's discussions about life after death, or what a person believes about, life or the continuation of life or not. But there's all of these discussions that center around that moment of death. And that's what I'm trying to, those are the discussions that I'm trying to have with that
Wow.
group of work.
That's great. If anyone's watching this and they would like to get to know your work better, follow your work, see more, where would you tell them to go?
You can go to my website. It's huckabystudios.com. The show that we're about to have right now, there's 2 shows that's happening in Los Angeles, but the gallery that I show at in Los Angeles is Philip Martin Gallery.
Okay.
And that show will probably be opening by the end of March, maybe it's the last week of March.
Okay.
Or early April, I should know, but and Bridge Projects in Los Angeles is also going to be having an exhibition there next month, and there will be work in there as well.
Wow.
Also, I think there's an exhibition coming up at the Amon Carter.
Oh, yeah, in Fort Worth.
In Fort Worth. Yeah. And I'll have some works there as well.
Yeah, and you have a piece there in their permanent collection, right? One of your quilt pieces is there.
One of they have a few pieces in their collection.
Okay.
And they also in their collection have one of the series, the 99%.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So close by, people can go see your work firsthand. Well, Sedrick, I can't thank you enough. I thank you for letting us invade your space. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the work that you do. It's important. It's important work, and it's really, really good. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.